Good morning, everyone. If you would go ahead and take your seats. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Sullivan, and I want to welcome you all to the University Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We're glad that you have joined us this morning, and I want to welcome everyone who is both here in person and online. If you would go ahead and wave to our online friends, thank you for joining us as well. Thank you also to any visitors who joined us today. We're going to go ahead and start with committee moments. Anybody that has a particular announcement they need to make, please go ahead and come up to the microphone.
Okay, since I'm so close, I'll just start. Is this on? Yeah, so we're having choir rehearsal again at noon after church. And if you like to sing, feel free to join us. And if not, we'll be starting at noon. And so it would be really great if you carried on your conversations in the garden after noon. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that was a fake out, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. Ann Packham. I know this is kind of far in the future, but I like to make sure people have it on their calendars. So April 3rd will be our annual meeting.
May 3rd.
So May 3rd is our annual meeting. So please make sure it's on your calendar. We'll have snacks afterward, and we'll be honoring all the people and all the great stuff that we've done in this last church year. So make sure you have it on your calendar.
Good morning, Margie with membership. Thank you to Carrie for standing in as greeter when we haven't had one. About once a month, I will send out a text to possible greeters asking for people to sign up. If you are willing to be in that text group, let me know so that I can reach you too, and you can sign up if you would like to. Also, thank you to Joey Cole because she's volunteered to be the greeter for all of May. Next thing, Monday, 6:30, Women's Support Group. All women, if you identify as a woman, are a woman, you're welcome to come. Whatever passes between us at women's group stays in women's group, and it is a potluck, so we'd love to see you there. Thanks.
Good morning, this is Peter. I'm speaking on behalf of the Men's Support Group, which meets tomorrow night at 6:30 in this very building. So if you identify as male, interested in participating in our happy group, please show up then and bring a meal if you care, or there'll be plenty of food there to eat. It's being shared by other folks. So I'll be there, and I hope I'll see you there. Wish you well.
Hi, Lori and Jill for hospitality. We still have a couple of openings in May if people would like to serve coffee. The other thing is, if somebody took home to wash the light-colored tablecloths and a number of our dish towels, I found them. Okay, thank you.
Hi everyone, Anna with the RE Committee. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that next week for the auction there will be childcare provided until at least 1:30, so you should have plenty of time to enjoy the auction without little ones distracting you.
One week till the auction. Woohoo! And we have so many really nice things, and you could be bidding. You could have bid this morning or yesterday on items that are already online. But I want to warn you that some of those items may be gone before the actual auction day. Things like a murder mystery party or a dinner at someone's home. There's a limited number of spaces for those things, and sometimes they fill up before auction day. So please be sure to do that. I'm going to hand this to Sarah in a minute. I have been going door to door and going places, to restaurants and everything, so we have so many neat places. I'm going one more place today, and that is the place where I bought this T-shirt. It's a great place in the Oviedo Mall, and they've donated every year, so I'm going to pick up their gift certificate today. But there's so many really nice things, and so much good food, and so many wonderful volunteers. And we'll talk about volunteers in a minute. And Sarah is our computer whiz, and she's going to tell you more.
Really, what I want to remind you is that in order to bid on any of these items, you need to register first. It's super easy. And I even have a sheet here that I'm going to hand around to anybody who needs it with the web address and how to do it and important dates. I can make it even easier for you. I have my computer here. After service, feel free to come up to me and I'll register you right here. That's right.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and the online items will close on Saturday, right around dinner time, 4 p.m. So don't wait until late on Saturday night to bid, because you'll have to wait until the actual live auction the following day, where we have items that are done by our Chloe McElroy. She'll be our live auctioneer, and we'll have the silent auction in the library, just like past years.
Alrighty, auction announcements part 3. We are still seeking some additional volunteers if anyone would like to help. This is in areas such as setup and displays, providing bidding numbers to register people, setup and decoration, helping bidders in the silent auction room, helping with food service, and cleanup afterwards. We do have at least one person in each category, which is super great. Thank you so much to everyone that signed up, and I really appreciate it. But if anyone else would like to join in on the fun, we'd love that too. This goes super great when all hands are on deck. So I also have here the food sign up. If you could just verify if you need a regular meal, vegetarian meal, vegan meal, or children's pizza, that would also be great if you have not already. And finally, we are in need of some centerpieces. If anyone has any ideas, that would be great. Come and find me after service. If your name is on this list, that is Paula, Larry, Carrie, Jill, Bill, the other Jill, Barbara, Martha, Sarah, Beatrice, Chris. 3 different Jills, I'm sorry. Jill Vita, Vita and Metz. I can count, I swear. Sarah, Leela, Martha, Carrie, Kari, and Patrick. And of course, shout out to our friends with specific jobs, Lori, Chloe, Leela, Lindsay, Sarah, and myself.
And finally, we're going to talk about Pledge very quickly, but I have 2 great jokes today. I wish that I was covering that whole heart with the kind of pale green, that meaning that the money is taken care of for us to continue these wonderful activities. However, we are only about halfway there, folks. We really need people to step up. Now, if you are, and a lot of people have had a really tough year, I appreciate that. If you need, there is a waiver request on the paper thing that says basically we wish to maintain our UUF membership and pledge to continue supporting our beloved fellowship with time and talents. However, we're unable to make a financial pledge at this time. At least then we'll know that, that's one person that is accounted for. So without further ado, again, we really need to get these pledges in. This is the last time I'll be getting up here because I am headed north come Wednesday. I won't be here for the auction, so I'm sure you guys will have a wonderful, wonderful time. That said, this first joke is in honor of Chloe McElroy. First of all, you need to know that a millennialist is a person who believes in a future, often 1,000 years period of peace, justice, and righteousness on earth, often associated with the millennium described in the book of Revelation. So, a UU theological student studying at a Christian seminary was questioned by one of the institution's eldest faculty members. The old man slowly and deliberately pronounced his questions as if every word was of the utmost significance. Are you a pre-minimalist, a post-minimalist, or a minimalist? Millennialist. Sorry. Pre-millennialist, post-millennialist, or a millennialist. The student considered her answer for a long time and finally said, actually, I'm a Not wanting to leave the old professor in confusion, she quickly added, because I think everything will pan out all right. That said, there's one last. My absolute favorite difference between Unitarians and Universalists. The difference between Universalists and Unitarians is that Universalists believe that God is too good to damn men, and the Unitarians believe that man is too good to be damned. There you go.
Good morning, everyone. Miguel Rodriguez from Social Action Committee. First of all, I am donating 2 class dance package for the auction. So if you want to learn how to dance tango, tap, ballet, salsa, bachata, fun things like that, bid, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, the auction. We also have in 2 weeks from today, the Social Action Committee meeting at noon. Typically, we're going to have it in the library, but if you can't make it personally, we also have, you can look at notable news, and we have Zoom. You can join in on Zoom as well. So we are getting into, of course, the election season for the midterms, so SAC is going to be heavily involved with that, educating us in the community about what to do, what to expect this election season. So if you want to hear more about that, and contribute, participate, come join us in the SAC meeting on the 26th. April 26th. And also, SAC will be working with the pledge on immigration rights as well. So join us for that discussion as well. Thank you.
So today, rather than having opening words, we're going to have opening sounds. If you would take a moment and take a deep cleansing breath and just listen. Thank you. Opening music today for The Earth Forever Turning, which Gary will be taking the lead on.
So please stand if you're willing and able. And Elisa will give us a short introduction. For the earth skies, for every sea. For thee lies for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures, in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In the joy we sing, returning home to our two green hills of earth.
Our chalice lighter this morning is Jo. Her pronouns are she and her. She's age 6, and her joy is that she lost her first tooth. You'll join me. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And also join me in our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. We move to our time of joys and concerns. By sharing the major events in our lives, both the joyful ones and the more difficult ones, this is the way we strengthen our ties to each other. Please come up to the microphone if you want to share. And remember, this is being broadcast on the internet to the entire world, so take that into consideration when you speak. I have a concern. I forgot to remind people to turn off your phones.
And as promised, I'm going to take that computer that's in the recycle box today. Speak now or it's gone.
I just completed, it was probably my 50th residential retreat last Friday, 1-week retreat, and it was one of my more successful ones. I'm very grateful that I found this way of living in 1982, a long time ago. And I am going to be leading a one-day meditation retreat next Saturday at a retreat center in Apopka near Rock Springs. So there are posters on the door over there if anyone's interested, or talk to me, and I'll be glad to give you some support with it. Don't worry about if you've not meditated before. This is completely workable. It's a very simple procedure. It just requires a willingness to practice. I wish you well.
My joys are the last couple of Sundays have been really great. So Carl and I did a metric century bike ride for diabetes, the Tour de Cure, 2 Sundays ago. It's supposed to be 62 miles, turned out to be almost 67. So you can imagine those last 3 or 4 miles, how we felt. But we did it. And then last weekend we were in Washington, D.C. for Easter, visiting with all of our family together, which was the first time since Christmas. So all is well.
Hello. As some of you know, our very own Chloe and Joey work at a bookshop, Shelf Life Books and Gifts in Altamont, that's owned by Judith, who was the former RE director here and is now the RE director over at our sister church, One U. They are hosting a poetry slam on the 30th. So if anyone likes to write poetry and would like to share, or just wants to go and listen to what's all being read, be a fun way to go out and support some fellow UUs.
I reached that age. I didn't think I'd ever get there. And the age where you have to tap your IRA, those of you who have a bunch of years, you know what I'm talking about. Those of you who are younger, start you an IRA. Save up, because when you get as old as I am, you'll be glad you have it. And the person I don't do this sort of thing well on computers, and I don't have enough trust in that system. So I was doing this with somebody over the phone. He was wonderful. He was pleasant. He was knowledgeable. He was clear and said everything in words that I could understand. And the whole process went like silk. So now I'm getting another deposit in my account every month. Yay, I could use that money.
Thank you. I have one concern that last week I was supposed to make the announcement that Reverend Kathy is going to be delivering a very important talk after service today. So I asked Colleen to send out an email blast. It is called Talking Across the Divide, Tips and Techniques, and I'm sure all of us have relatives or people we know that are across the divide that we would like to talk with in a lot better method. So yes, if you can go to that, I believe we're starting at 12.
Yes, and it's a conversation more than a talk.
It's a conversation, there you go. And there will be snacks and drinks provided as well, and this is promoted by the Pastoral Care Committee. And my joy and concern is that on Wednesday I leave for an almost 2-week trip north to see my family and also to take my husband's ashes to a national cemetery in Massachusetts. And I am a little nervous because I'm taking my dog. But she's getting to be a better traveler all the time. And she'll be good company for me on the trip. But at any rate, I won't see you and I won't be here for the auction, and I know it will go well. You guys always do an amazing job with the auction. So I just wanted to say I will see you soon to my UU family.
Hey, so baby brother has been with adoptive mom now for over a month, and it's going really, really well. And within a week after that, I had to move. So thank you, Ann and Carl, for all the help moving. So we're now in a new place and hopefully settled there for a lot longer, because I don't want to move again. So yeah.
All right, so we have two joys on the Zoom room. First is from Evelyn. She received the UU World and thoroughly enjoyed reading it. Not mistaken with AAA World, so. And also, I think Allie's brother is auditioning for Disney music today.
If we could now just take a moment to meditate silently on the things that were shared today and the things that remain on people's hearts. Thank you. Our time for all ages today will be done by our speaker, Dr. Jonathan Beever. I'll give him a more formal introduction when we get to that point, but if you would please join me in welcoming.
Do the kids want to come up here, or do you want me to talk from the podium? What's your preference? Podium. Podium? Okay. All right, for all the young people and young at heart people in the room, what's the loudest sound you've ever heard?
Siren.
The siren? Yeah. Sonic booms? Yeah. All right. Fireworks? Yeah.
Mother being mad at me.
That's a good one. All right, so now what's the quietest sound you've ever heard?
Butterfly burping.
All right, Paula wins. Oh, yes. Yeah. Sorry. What's the quietest sound you've ever heard? And Paula said butterfly burping. Yeah. I started thinking about this recently, and I'll leave this up here for anybody who wants to read it afterwards, but I read a book to my kids called The Sound of Silence, and got thinking about this because the idea of silence, I think, is fascinating. The idea that there can be no sound. And researchers have tried to look at this, and in fact, one of my favorite studies was a pair of researchers went into the deepest cave they could find to try to find silence, a place with no sound. And what they heard was the heartbeat of the mountain. And I think that's fascinating, right? That there is no place that is silent. But this book introduces to children a Japanese concept of ma, which is silence, as the space between sounds. So when we're looking for silence, we're not looking for no noise. We're looking for paying attention to that space between sounds. And I think that's a really beautiful concept. And this book does a really lovely job of introducing that to you. So if you've got a chance, you can take a look at this copy, but find it for your kids. Mine have really enjoyed it. So, thank you. I'll leave this on the round table.
So the book will be on the round table for anyone that would like to take a look at it afterwards. The interlude and offering is your opportunity to support not only our congregation, but the work of organizations in our community. Today's offering will be the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, whose work is sorely needed. The music for our interlude and offering will be For the Beauty of the Earth, and Alicia Tran will play, and Gary Levins will lead.
I have a short introduction. For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of ear and eye, for the heart and mind's delight, for the mystic harmony, linking sense to sound and sight. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the wonder of each hour, of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
Now for our children's recessional. We love you and bless you, send you on your way. We love you and bless you today and every day. I'm very happy to welcome back to our congregation Dr. Jonathan Beever. He is a professor of philosophy at UCF and is the co-founder and leader of the UCF Center on Ethics, as well as leading the Sound, Silence, and Environments Lab. This lab studies the impact of anthrophonic noise, which I had to look up, means the noise created by humans, including their machines and technology. So the impact of anthrophonic noise on the natural environment in and around Central Florida. In addition to all of that work, he has 2 children and recently came back from a trip to South Korea. I know. So if you will join me in welcoming Dr. Jonathan Beever.
Thank you, everybody. I'm really glad to be here with you again this morning. I've spoken to this congregation a couple of times about different topics, and I'm really excited to talk to you about sounds this morning. We had a little conversation about silence, so I'm going to focus in on soundscapes now. I'm going to give you just a little bit of my background in this space, a little bit of history, and then talk through some of the science of soundscape ecology. Yeah. Nice, perfect, thanks. I started thinking about sound when I was a fellow at the Aldo Leopold Foundation in Wisconsin years ago now, but Leopold was a very famous American ecologist, as many of you know. Spent a lot of time restoring the sand prairies of Wisconsin, the sand counties of Wisconsin, back to pine forest. He was really thinking about ecology, but one of the things he is very famous for is keeping really good phenological records. So the study of change over time. He would track seasons very well, he would track migratory patterns, and one of those things he was famous for was sitting out in his porch. I'll give you some details in a few minutes. Sitting on his porch with a cigar in his chair early in the morning and listening to the dawn chorus as it emerged. And Leopold has this beautiful quote from Sand County Almanac where he says, "Out of the clouds I hear a faint bark of a faraway dog. It's strange how the world cocks its ear to that sound, wondering." Leopold was very famous for lots of things, but for me in particular, it was that he was so good at paying attention. And I think one of the beautiful things about soundscape ecology for me is that it gives us the chance to pay attention to the world in new ways. On the science side, there have been a lot of folks in the US and other places who have thought about sound scientifically, either from the social perspective or the biological perspective. One of my favorite stories was of Michael Southworth back in the late 60s. Southworth did this really compelling study of blinding participants, blindfolding, not blinding, sorry. That's a differently interesting study. Blindfolding participants in Boston and having them go on sound walks to see if they could identify where they were in the city based on the sonic landscape. And I think that's a really amazing thing. And you could, especially with kids at home, it's really fun to play the activity of just asking them to listen to what they hear. And it's remarkable to me that inside a space like this, even, there's a lot of techophony, right? Technology-based sound. Even in our most quiet, meditative moments, there are those background sounds that you hear. And Southworth was paying a lot of attention to that, and he thought that soundscapes could help us with urban design and planning. And Southworth's account is really important, but really focused on human perspectives, human perception of sound. He was worried about pollution in the city landscape. He was worried about what that did to human health. And so he spent a lot of time thinking about how our visual experience of cities relates to our sonic experience of cities. And he has this lovely notion of sonic delight, which sounds like an ice cream flavor to me sometimes, but sonic delight is this sense that we get when we hear something new and informative in our landscape. Not noise per se, but new and informative sounds. And you can see this if you could imagine walking around, although you wouldn't want to do it here probably, walking around Central Florida with a blindfold on and trying to get a sense of where you were, you probably orient yourself either by bird sounds or by road sounds. Moving on a little bit, still in the acoustic ecology space, R. Murray Schafer, a little later, started to develop an account, sort of what's called a typography, or a set of concepts and descriptions to better understand what was happening in our sonic landscape. And Schafer introduced keynote sounds. So you could imagine, and we could play this game, but what's the keynote sound of Carilion, for instance? A lot of folks identify it with the bell tower, for instance, here in Central Florida, right? The university has its own sense of keynote sounds. Your home has its keynote sound. Southworth said this is one way we navigate our sonic environment, is through identifying these key sounds. And every place has a set of signals and a set of sound marks. So he's trying to build up a conceptual apparatus to help us understand the space around us. Now again, this is really important work, and a lot of the thinking was about noise pollution at the time, at that era, right? Trying to clean up our sonic environment to make it better for us. But only much later did we start thinking about move from acoustic ecology to soundscape ecology, which for me is a shift from thinking about how sound matters to you and I, to how sound matters to every living organism that can hear. Soundscape ecology had its moment. In particular, one of my favorite people is Bernie Krause. I got to meet Krause years ago now. And Krause is very famous for this book, The Great Animal Orchestra. And he has, if those of you who are of my generation and older might remember Bernie Krause as a member of the Yardbirds from back in the day. Krause has spent his career as a musician and then quickly turned to field recording later in his life. In fact, his story got a little sad. It wasn't more than a decade ago his house in California burned to the ground and he lost most of his collection of recordings, the stuff that hadn't been digitized. So a lot of that had been lost. But Krause used to just sit with headphones and a giant microphone and just listen and just capture what he heard to try to get a sense. And he's got beautiful, beautiful stories about that. He tells a story of sitting, I think it was in the Andes somewhere, sitting cross-legged on the forest floor with a microphone and headphones on and listening to the sound of birds and rustling of leaves, and caught only at the last minute a really low grumble and opened his eyes to see a jaguar advancing through the forest. So he's got a lot of stories like this that are just so compelling that he spent a lot of time thinking. And for those of you interested in the space of thinking with others, there's a famous philosopher, ethnographer, David Abram, who's famous for his phenomenology work, so the study of experience in the environment. Abrams has the same attitude, but isn't as scientific about it. So Krause spent a lot of time doing this recording and came up with this theory, which was conceptual. That is, there wasn't any evidence for it yet, but he across his experience recording, hypothesized that all the living worlds formed an orchestra. And I think this is a really powerful concept. So imagine here in Central Florida, if one bird species drops out of the orchestra, what happens to the rest of the bird species? Well, they have the opportunity to expand their sonic range, to fill that gap. And that was Krause's account. He thought that in any ecosystem, humans included, but in every ecosystem, there was a sonic orchestration happening. And if one species drops out, other instruments in the orchestra will step in to fill the gap. And that acoustic gap gets filled. So you always have a robust soundscape, but the more diverse it is, that is, the more instruments playing, the more healthy that landscape is. So he had an ecological sense from soundscapes. But it wasn't until considerably later when a set of researchers started really trying to explore how we'd identify that empirically. And so Krause was the one who developed this model that I've leaned on around biophony, anthrophony, and geophony. So the study, biophony is non-human animal sounds or living sounds, if you will. That might include us, that might not, depending on who you're talking to. Anthrophony, which is specifically sounds created by human beings and their machines, importantly. And geophony, the sound created by the natural world, the wind and the rain and the rumble of the planet from deep inside the mountain that I described to you in that moment of silence. And by studying the interplay among these three things, soundscape ecologists think that we can better understand the health of ecosystems. And we usually do that by empirical observation. So this is empirical observation with our ears. So I had spent a lot of time thinking about the relationship between people and parks, or between anthropocentric values, the values that we all hold vis-a-vis one another, and biocentric values. What's the value of a park independent of my appreciation of it? And I lean on parks right now because you all know what's happened recently to the U.S. Forest Service. And so it is going to be our prerogative in the next decade, at least, to defend those kinds of spaces, our parks and our forests. So the better we understand its value, I think the more power we can put behind that. But again, there's really interesting tensions here between, the airplanes flying overhead and the frogs in our backyards and the wildlife surrounding us. And some of these things are intimately local. For instance, the Cuban tree frog, which is an invasive species here in the southeast, outcompetes sonically native species like the green tree frog. And it's not necessarily that it's outcompete in a physical sense, but it's outcompeting in its sonic environment. Noise, whether it's our noise or noise by invasive species, can decrease the fitness of native species. Another great frog-related study, for those of you interested, I don't know why the frogs are coming to mind this morning, it's my own doing, is that there have been studies of predator-prey relationships in airplane, related to airplane noise. So you probably remember, or remember from biology class when you were younger, that frogs in particular, they ribbit or call in competing patterns. And part of that is to throw off predators. Because if all frogs sang at once, they'd attract predators, right? So they sing in these interplay patterns. Well, if you've got an airplane flying overhead, all frogs go silent. And then they all start up again. And that decreases their fitness. And we know this empirically, right? So we've got all these interesting and unfortunate cases where anthropocentric noise created by us and our machines, decreases the fitness, that is the welfare of non-human animals. There have also been some other beautiful cases, and I wish I had better reference for you, but I'm thinking now of a story Bernie Krause told about elephants in Senga Bay, I think in Kenya. He told this story about elephants creating a unique, species-unique communication pattern by bouncing their calls off the clay walls of a watering hole. And so that troop of elephants has a unique communication pattern globally. And we know this now because we've got lots of other evidence of things just like this that are so compelling. And I know I've spoken to this group before about AI ethics, and some of you know my thoughts there. That is, I don't like AI very much. However, you might have seen this study, and this gives me such hope. A group of researchers, so you all know that whales have these beautiful communication patterns, right? Really robust. It turns out that with AI, we can now almost translate them. Yeah, it's super fascinating. We can understand the emotive and communication patterns of whales because we can talk back to them. Yes. And that's what I love about this study. This has been around, sorry. Oh, so I got excited and I hit the wrong button. Oh, okay, right. This stuff has been around a long time. There's a, oh gosh, I'm going to forget his name now. That's embarrassing. I can picture him. There's a ecologist and musician from New York State who kind of made a name for playing brass instruments to whales. So he would listen to whale song and they'd drop his instrument in the water and play and call in response. But he didn't know what he was saying. So there's just a, like an echo or something. Like dueling banjos. Yeah, there's some sort of like interesting communication going on. But with AI, apparently, we can now understand what whales are saying. Now, we can't have complex conversations with them. We're not that good. But part of this is about the science of soundscapes. What we've come to understand over the last couple of decades is that, and we've known this for a long time, but we're getting really good at its analysis, that species have this really distinct sonic range in terms of their frequency ranges, with which they call and the patterns. So through technologies like AI, we can do a pretty robust job now of differentiating patterns and understanding what's happening big picture. And all of this sort of drove me back in 2017 to launching this Sound, Silence, and Environments Lab. I'll pause here and just say, one of the beautiful things to me about the university, my university, UCF, our university, is that it has allowed me to explore. Right? As a philosopher, a lot of my colleagues have to focus on one thing. I'd have to be a really good, like Kantian on deontology or something. Right? Pick one thing. I get to explore. So one of my explorations was launching this lab, and out of this lab, we've done all kinds of really interesting work. When the lab launched, I bought a series of these wildlife acoustic song meters, the SM5 units, which are really high fidelity. That is, they capture a very accurate and wide range of sound. There are also much cheaper units now that I haven't played with, but a lot of my colleagues are working on. The Audio Moth unit, which is just a Raspberry Pi run, very simple, very cheap recording device. The power of these units is that they are longitudinal field recorders. So imagine now Bernie Krause, or you, sitting cross-legged on the forest with your headphones and your microphone. You can do that for a while, right? But not very long, and you just get a snapshot of what's happening in that space. With technologies like these, we've deployed these. I just wrapped up a few years ago a 5-year longitudinal study with the UCF Arboretum, where those units were out in the Arboretum for 5 consecutive years. And we went out about once a month, once every 6 weeks, something, to change out the batteries and to change out the memory cards. And we just collected this remarkable data trove, right? You can set these up to record in whatever periodicity you want, but we tracked, with the Arboretum, tracked heat map data, so the change of ground temperature over time, and now we can map biodiversity onto ground temperature. The problem for me, as a philosopher, is that now I'm buried in data. I'm not a data scientist. So out of this lab, so I should just say, and I have got these up here just for my reference really, but I also have collected data sets, and part of this as a philosopher, the fun for me has just been, I get to like wear snake chaps and go out in the field. I mean, it's amazing. Philosophers don't get to do that often. So. We also have data sets from UCF's Arboretum and my home on 2 hurricanes, Ian and Milton. So we recorded longitudinally across the I passage. The liminal space is that 5-year project. I'll give you an example of the Central Florida Zoo. We did a solar eclipse project where we studied, we collected data here and in totality in Ohio at the exact same time for the exact same period, and proved the hypothesis, which has been proven, but it was fun for my students, that during eclipse, the dawn chorus and the dusk chorus happen again. So you can see it in my data, right? During the day, regular sound patterns, and then you get a dusk chorus and a dawn chorus across the eclipse. It's beautiful to see visually. And then I have this little tiny data set that I got fascinated by. Somebody tell me if I'm gonna, see, I'm too excited, I'm not paying attention. Sorry. I've got this little project that I did. I was doing a home repair project, and I had, let's see, the Sears circular saw that was the father's of my neighbors, my older neighbors. So he'd given it to me, right? It's this old circular saw. And I'd run this thing up and I'd go cutting plywood, and cicadas would come and land on the circular saw. Yeah, and I'd stop and they'd fly away. And I'd start again and the cicadas would come back and land on the circular saw. Yeah, and you know why they did that, of course, right? Yeah, they thought it was sexy. I have a sexy circular saw. Yeah. At least to cicadas. There's not been any studies like this, but again, this is, for me, this is the power of just listening to the world around you, because you start to see these sonic relationships that you otherwise wouldn't put together, right? But now we know, that's probably a paper title right there. Sexy circular saws and cicadas, yeah. Thanks, Paul. One of my favorite things out of this project, and I was telling Janet this earlier, was that I've had the opportunity now to work with 5, not consecutive, but 5 computer science senior design teams at the university. So I do a client pitch to the senior design class every year, and they rank projects. And I'm very pleased to say that my Soundscape Ecology projects are always really highly ranked, up alongside Lockheed Martin and our community partners. And teams come together and they build tools for me, which is lovely. There are algorithms out there that have been designed to study sound, but they're written in the R programming language, which you have to know quite a bit of, you have to have a substantial base of coding experience to make those things run. So these students over time have built me graphic user interface tools like Mangrove, this piece of software that now does the work for me, right? I can plug data sets in, run these algorithms in the graphic user interface, and it gives me visual outputs. So I can show you charts and graphs. So that has been just a really lovely experience, and I've worked with now, I guess it's 25, between 20 and 25 computer science students who have all contributed to this project. which has its own GitHub repository now, which I'm very proud of. But that project led to this partnership, and this will be my last story for you, but this partnership with the Central Florida Zoo a few years back. We did a 2-year study where again, the zoo was very generous with me, but they allowed me to come in and place recorders near the black bear enclosure, which at that point was new. I don't know if you know the Central Florida Zoo in Sanford well, but the black bears came in a couple of years ago and they had some, let's call it enculturation problems, right? The bears were pretty nervous. And so we were trying to figure out what that was about, and part of it I hypothesized was the sonic environment. And we also had this other interesting competing case where the giraffe enclosure, which backs up against the freight and Amtrak rail track, there were 3 giraffes at the time. One of them has passed now. But the giraffe barn right here is probably 20 meters from the tracks. And so I hypothesized, right, that this non-periodic, very loud sound would be disruptive to the giraffes. And we designed, with Dr. Jim Bogan, the veterinarian at the zoo, we designed a cortisol study, which we haven't done yet for all kinds of reasons. But the cortisol study would relate the soundscape to cortisol levels in the giraffes, which you can collect either from the front end or the back end of the giraffe. So that's a study too. But interestingly, behaviorally, the animal behaviorists have reported that the giraffes evidence no behavioral change when the trains go by. So, well, I see that's what I wondered too. Do they not hear them? But I think what's happening is the same thing that happens to us. If you, and I've had students like this, and I'm sure you know young people like this too, who move to some place like Central Florida from a major metropolitan city like New York or Chicago, and they have a hard time adjusting. Why? Because it's so quiet. Yeah, you become habituated to the noise, right? So if you become habituated, even if it's not periodic, to the sound of a freight train rumbling by, maybe the giraffe just hears it coming because it's real low frequency on the rails at first, right? Maybe the giraffe hears it coming and is like, yep, it's a train. It happens all the time, right? Same with Boo at the Zoo. You know Boo at the Zoo, where the Halloween activity, like what feel like 10,000 children show up at the zoo in costume and run rampant, right? Giraffes don't seem to care. Part of that, I think, is just about the patterns to which we become attuned in our sonic environments. Now, I don't know that it's healthy. So where I want to turn next, and I'm happy to take questions. I've got some figures, and I've got a report that I sent the zoo, which I'm happy to share with anybody interested too. But I want to do 2 things that are now ethics related. 5 minutes. I will move quickly. Here is the Dawn Chorus from one of Leopold's journals. This is from June 1st, 1940. Leopold, this is how he recorded his phonological record. So again, he'd sit out and record the Dawn Chorus. So he hears first the American robin, and then 28 seconds later, the field sparrow weighs in, and then 70 seconds in, the indigo bunting shows up. And he records this pattern, right? Which, again, if you can imagine doing this, is pretty remarkable. But interesting to me, this soundscape is extinct, right? If you went back to, you can go to Leopold's shack. It still stands in Baraboo, Wisconsin. You can go back to the shack. You can go there June 1st, 2026, because we're not there yet, and sit down and record the Dawn Chorus, and it will not be this Dawn Chorus, right? Because the sand counties have changed. So Stan Temple, a researcher who holds actually Leopold's chair at University of Wisconsin-Madison, recreated this soundscape from the Cornell Ornithological Laboratory records. Cornell has this huge lab that records bird sound. He basically recreated this exact Dawn Chorus and uses it as a demonstration of the power of soundscapes. But for me, it's really interesting because he's recreated something, he's de-extincted a soundscape, right? Like, you know the direwolf story with Colossal, right? They've de-extincted the direwolf. The thing they've de-extincted is not the direwolf, it's some amalgam of a gray wolf with a few genomic changes, whatever. That's what's happening here too, right? It's not those robins in eastern meadowlarks, it's some random, right? It's recreated. I think there are real ethical implications for us thinking about the value of our soundscapes too. So yeah, why worry that they can go extinct? What value do they have for us? We know 2 things, and I'm going to move through this very quickly because I know I'm out of time. One, we know that noise is really bad for our health. There's all kinds of examples of this empirically. Noise is just bad for our health. Even if you're not used to it, a city kid moving from New York to the Central Florida might not be used to the quiet, but it's better for them empirically. We know this. 2, we know that sound is good for us, right? Not noise, necessarily sound, and there's a conceptual distinction, but we know that there's connectedness to sense of place, there's connectedness to nature stuff that goes on, there's meditative practices, there's human health concerns. We know that sound is beneficial to us. And so I will leave you just with the question of what do we do about the value of soundscapes? If we think we ought to conserve soundscapes, think about what they're connected to. That is landscapes, right? That is our ecosystems. So to preserve our soundscapes, which we know are good for us, requires us, demands of us that we preserve our natural space. I hope we do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was informative and interesting and enjoyable. I am so glad you are here today. All right, if you would join me, please. We extinguish this flame, without let fear, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And our closing music is Blue Boat Home, and it will be led by Paula.
So stand as you're willing and able. Take a deep breath, put your whole heart and your diaphragm into it. For those who like to waltz, this is your opportunity. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, still the great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. thank you one and all. You have no idea how beautiful you sound from up here.
So I have a little story for you. Many years ago, okay, we'll call it decades back, my husband and I went to a music festival each summer. And it was 3 days, and everybody would camp on the fields and then walk down to the stage for the music, and then that. And in the middle of the summer, of course, it got hot. It was multi-day, so people brought food, which meant they needed ice. So there was an ice truck that would go all in amongst the campground so that everybody could get the ice. And he made a very specific place-based sound that was a signal for ice and became the pleasurable sound that we all, forgive me, I've forgotten the phrase already, the sound mark of it. And I can't really make this sound, but it was something to the effect of, ice, with this really growly low sound. And it was so funny to hear, and so we'd go around the fields making this sound. Well, the kids not really enjoyed it, and so they would compete to try and replicate the sound. And so before each run, the kids would gather and would have a contest, and one of them would get to do the first ice call of the day, and then he would continue on his rounds. And it's something that if you are able to accurately make it, anybody who's been to that festival knows exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, so it's delightful. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Dr. Beever, for your. We have a postlude today. Oh, excuse me, closing music. We did that. We did my closing words, which means we are at the postlude. Alicia also did a prelude and accompanied all of the songs today. Would you join me in thanking her? This will be Colors of the Wind. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If you'd like to have coffee, tea, conversation, please, and have a wonderful week.